draft is in the books, and while it was exciting, the biggest news of the night came afterwards. Our senior NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, revealed Kawhi Leonard's free agency plans. Woj was on Get Up this morning explaining the very latest.
This still is really just the Clippers and the Raptors, but I'm told they're open to potential meetings with the 76ers, with the Knicks, even the Brooklyn Nets. Now, Philadelphia, their focus is re-signing their own free agents. Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, J.J. Redick. But there are always relationships that exist that are going to allow teams to get meetings. Very often they're just as courtesies. They're for a favor perhaps in the future. But I think it's conceivable he's going to sit down with Philly, the Knicks. But this is still a two-team race right now, the Clippers and the Raptors.
Lots of stuff to get into for hour number 2 here. First order of business, a couple of things we definitely want to get into. When you look at free agency as it's presently unfolding, the new king of free agency right now is Kawhi Leonard. Because the Kawhi Leonard, one could argue, is holding the balance of power in his hands in the Eastern Conference at the very least. Because if he remains with Toronto with everything they have in place, they're going to be the prohibitive favorites to win the East, if not to win the whole thing. When you look at the Western Conference, if he were to go to the Clippers, based on some of the parts that they have, they certainly would challenge for supremacy in the Western Conference. According to various NBA aficionados, Kawhi Leonard is still leaning towards the Clippers because the reality is that he's always wanted to be home. He wants to be home. He's from Southern California, and that's where he wants to live year-round, and that's where he wants to play. The flip side to it, however, is that in the Eastern Conference, the path to prosperity obviously is a little bit easier. Not only that, the Toronto Raptors are the reigning defending NBA champions now. And then on top of that, when you look at Kawhi Leonard, the one thing that can't be ignored is the fact that Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors, listen, if you just brought a championship to the country of Canada, you have every other player in the NBA who has a fan base in the palm of their hands, basically is a respective city. Kawhi has a country. A country. And Toronto, I'm here to tell you, ain't a bad city to live in at all. Toronto is lovely. Let me be very, very clear. I hear it's not as lovely as Montreal. I don't know the answer to that question. I heard that, but I'd like to see for myself. Nevertheless, I digress. The point is that Kawhi Leonard is just of the mindset that, you know something, those fans there in Toronto love him. Absolutely, positively love him. Free restaurants, free meals for life. Various restaurants have offered him. He wouldn't have to worry about another thing for a very, very long time. And I don't anticipate that himself nor his family knew that level of affection would be levied in his direction, but it has been. He is a mega superstar in Canada. He's a superstar player and universally respected everywhere in the NBA. But in terms of a love affair, I mean, these people worship the ground he's walking on. He's already he can get a statue in front of Scotiabank Arena right now. Get a statue right now, and nobody would blink, because that's how great he was this year. And so it's going to really, really be interesting to see what he decides to do. I find myself on several occasions over the last week plus really lamenting the state of affairs as it pertains to the Philadelphia 76ers. Because unlike Milwaukee, who got ramrodded after being up 2-0, and I didn't see that coming, unlike Golden State, who resembled an infirmary, for crying out loud, with all the injuries that were happening to them. I mean, think about it. Iguodala got hurt in Game 1. Klay Thompson got hurt in Game 2, had to miss Game 3. Game 4, he's hopping around on one leg. Game 5, Kevin Durant decides to come back and last but a quarter before tearing his Achilles. All right, Game 6, Klay Thompson comes back out there and tears his ACL. You can't make it up. I mean, what a horrible, horrible turn of events for the Golden State Warriors. So I look at it from that perspective, that who would have thought all of that would happen to any organization, let alone a reigning defending two-time champions who were the Golden State Warriors at that time. But it happened. But if you're the Philadelphia 76ers, conceivably you could have and should have beaten the Toronto Raptors. Remember, one of those games, Joel Embiid was sick. Played sorry, gave you nothing. Claimed to have some stomach ailment or whatever the case may be. Some flu, I don't know what the hell it was. But the Sixers blew him out in 2 games in Philadelphia. Toronto blew them out 1 game too. Game 5, if I remember correctly. Philadelphia came back, handled their business in Game 6. Game 7 came down to the wire, and Kawhi Leonard makes a shot. He actually traveled on that jump shot, but that's neither here nor there. He made it. To the point that I'm trying to make to you is, one could argue the Philadelphia 76ers could be standing here as world champions today. I believe they would have beaten Milwaukee. And then if they had gone against Golden State and Golden State had incurred all of those injuries, what would Philly have done? Philadelphia could very well be the champions right now. The champions. Even with Kawhi Leonard in the Toronto Raptor uniform. If Joel Embiid hadn't been a no-show for 1 game. It wasn't Game 7, but it still counts. It's amazing what you got to deal with here. It really is. But give Toronto credit. They won a Game 5 in Philadelphia that was pivotal. They'd lose the series, they lose that game. They won a Game 4 in Philly. They won a Game 5 in Milwaukee with the series tied 2-2 at Milwaukee. 2 big-time road games. They answered the bell. They lose Game 2 in the finals to the Golden State Warriors. Came back, won Game 3 and 4. Nick Nurse said in the locker room after they lost Game 2, he said to the team, let's go get one in Golden State and steal back home court advantage. Kawhi Leonard reportedly said, F that. Let's get both. So this is what we're talking about here. This is what we're dealing with. Philadelphia could have been champions. And now you have a situation where Jimmy Butler, even though your Embiid is your star and Ben Simmons is your superstar in the making, if he could just get a jump shot, any kind of jump shot. But Jimmy Butler is arguably your most popular player. His personality, his makeup, his temperament is made for Philadelphia. Made for Philadelphia. Now they swear up and down. They want to keep him. They want to keep him and Tobias Harris. I'm told him and Tobias Harris don't want to coexist, so it's going to be one or the other. And my attitude is they should both want to stay if they could get their money, but if you Philly, you can't give both max dollars. Can't do it. But if you keep both of them, Philadelphia could win the East next year if Joel Embiid took those tears that he carried with him off that court at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto after losing a Game 7 to Kawhi and the Raptors. If he elevates his level of focus and seriousness to this game, and somehow he's healthy, Joel Embiid is the best big man in basketball. He's unstoppable. And Toronto would not beat them again if that happened. I'm here to tell you. But he has to get to that point. You're the Sixers. According to reports, our very own Adrian Wojnarowski and others have reported Kawhi Leonard is going to meet with the Sixers. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if that's going to happen. Even if it does, it doesn't matter. Kawhi Leonard's not coming to Philadelphia. By all accounts, there's no way in hell he's coming to Philadelphia. There's no way. So since Kawhi Leonard would not come to Philadelphia, okay, why is he meeting with them? Courtesy, that's why. Good relationship with Brett Brown. San Antonio Spurs pedigree. Comes from that Popovich tree. That has something to do with it. Courtesy. You'll listen to people and what they have to say. But if you're Kawhi Leonard, it's hard to believe you're going to cost yourself this much money. He was due to get $221 million from San Antonio. Passed up on that. Goes to Toronto. Most he could get is $189 million. He passes up on that. He goes to anybody else. It's for $140 million. Ladies and gentlemen, that's $30 million plus another close to $45-50 million. So in other words, if Kawhi Leonard were to leave Toronto and go to another team in a span of a year and a half, he will have cost himself over $80 million. From 221 to 140. I mean, with Kawhi, who the hell knows? He might not care. I know I'd care. I'll tell you that much. I promise you that. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Jay. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Jay?
Stephen A., my man, 50 grand. How you doing?
I'm all right. Go ahead, man.
So I have a little bit of a conspiracy theory. I know you're saying that the draft isn't fixed, but I'm looking back at the calendar. I'm looking at that year that the Pelicans, Hornets didn't have an ownership team. They win, and then they get themselves AD.
I didn't say anything. First of all, stop right there. I didn't say anything about it not being fixed. I said they should have fixed it this year. That's what I said.
So with that said, I feel like they do fix it, and they fix it in a fashion to keep these not viable teams viable. Wizards owner dies, they get the first pick. Cleveland loses LeBron, they get the first pick 3 times. I mean, it happens over and over. And
Stop right there. Stop right there. Stop right there. First of all, I'm only joking around. I'm not going to sit here and make a segment out of whether or not the draft is fixed. I'm not going to be irresponsible like that and point fingers at the NBA and others like that. The draft is the draft. The Cleveland Cavaliers had 3 shots of it at the apple or whatever. You can call it whatever you want. You have reasons for conspiracy theory. You don't need to enunciate and elocute your position with specifics or whatever. We all have our suspicions, but none of us have any proof. So let's shut our mouths from here in regards to that matter and move on with something more substantive. Go ahead.
Well, listen, that's really all I have, but it's just one of these things. I think we're in good shape with Barry, and let's see how this free agency goes. Maybe we have the first pick next year.
Maybe so. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you. Lamont, you're live with Stephen A. How are you?
Hey, Stephen A., it's a pleasure on being on your show, but I just want to touch on the black fathers in America, you know, being in their kids' lives and going to the graduation, sick and everything. I'm a father of 7 beautiful daughters, and I've been a part of their lives, you know, basically all their lives, and I have 5 grown daughters and 2 young daughters, a 9-year-old and 12-year-old, and I'm very active in their life. I'm very active in my grandkids. And just to say that we get a bad rap, you know, that's a bunch of malarkey. But I also want to say, going on the free agency, I just want all these young athletes to thank Kurt Flood for the free agency.
He's the father. I like the correlation, at least to some degree, albeit not direct. I get exactly where you're coming from. He's the father of free agency. He's the one that fought for these guys to ultimately have the freedom to move on and to maximize their potential wherever they be and have some freedom to make some choices. You're absolutely right.
And, you know, that's all I want to say. And another thing, you're doing a fabulous job. And I caught that Dennis Rodman segment about Draymond Green couldn't, you know, but that's another issue, different eras and everything. But I don't think that the Warriors could have beat the Lakers. I don't think they could have beat the Pistons, and I don't think they could have beat the Celtics, you know.
All right, my man. You meant the Raptors. I got you, though. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Live with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Ryan, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A., my man. Let me just take a page out of your book. It is blasphemous and egregious what Danny Ainge has done over the last 4 or 5 months. He had the opportunity to get a transcendent player, a generational player, and he wouldn't pull the plug per the reports that he didn't want to give up Jason Tatum. Let me tell you something about Jason Tatum. He plays when he wants to. When he's aggravated at something, he takes the night off. As a GM, you've got to make tough decisions and bold decisions, and he wouldn't pull the plug. He should be gone.
Whoa. Stop right there. I'm not. Hold it. I'm not going to say that Jason Tatum plays when he wants to play. That's not true. Jason Tatum's had some good nights, some bad nights, but I never see a shortage of effort. I think that to be so young in just his second year and to be put in that situation between Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, and other young guys on your squad, Brad Stevens taking care of his guy, Danny Ainge trying to validate the $130+ million contract he gave to Gordon Hayward, who, by the way, can play and deserved it. Danny Ainge did a good thing bringing him to the Celtics organization. Nobody could have predicted that he would suffer an injury on the very first game he played with the Celtics, 5 minutes in with that nasty leg injury and what have you. Nobody would have predicted that in a million years. So let's be clear about that. But there are some things that Danny Ainge just hasn't done, and I think recruiting is a part of his job, and it was a lot easier to do when when Doc Rivers was there. It was a lot easier to do. And so now I think he's finding it a little bit more difficult. He had some success, but they missed an opportunity last year. This past season, they were not on the same page. It was awful, and it's going to be interesting to see what Danny Ainge does from here.
Well, if they go after Vukovic, you don't know how he's going to be coming off that. It was a horrific injury, by the way. Let's all remember that.
It was.
If they decide to go after him, I just don't know, Stephen A. I just don't like the direction that the team's going in right now.
Well, listen, I will tell you this. They're not going to be scrubs, but the point is the Boston Celtics are no longer a championship contender. At this particular juncture, they are no longer a championship contender. That's the bottom line. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Mike. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Mike?
Hey, what's going on, my man? I just want to say, do you really think Kawhi really cares about the money as much? You know, he's a straight baller, man. That's all I think he's really worried about.
Well, let me respond to that. Let me answer that question. Let me answer that question this way. I get your point if we're talking $20 million, but if we're talking $80 million, you don't think it's possible he might care?
I mean, he already got it. I feel like he went and got that ring, and now I feel like
he doesn't. He doesn't already have it. That's just not true. What I'm saying to you is that he had an opportunity to sign for $221 million Supermax deal with the San Antonio Spurs. He did not do that. That's fine. So he goes to Toronto. He wanted out. It cost him about $30 million in terms of max dollars he could sign or whatever. All right, that's fine. Okay. But now if he leaves Toronto, instead of getting $187, $189 million, the most he'd be able to sign with somebody else is for $140. And I'm saying to you, the combination of the cumulative impact of those moves are very profound. That's all I'm trying to say. That is very profound. Now, he might not care. It's possible. He might want to be home, and I got it. And he might be confident enough, I'm going to make X amount of dollars down the road. All of that's true. But it is possible that he could say, I already lost $30 million. Do I really want to lose another 50? It's possible.
You're right, man. All right, nice talking to you,
brother.
That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Kyle, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, man?
I'm all right. Yourself?
I just want to talk to you, ask you a question about how you think my Chicago Bulls did last night in the draft, and what you think they're planning for free agency coming up now.
Well, listen, I think Kobe White can ball. Did I like him as much as I liked R.J. Barrett or Darius Garland? No, but it's pretty damn close. Kobe can play. His hairdo's wild or whatever, but his game, he's a big guard. He can put the ball in the hole. He can get to the basket. I think that his dribble, his ball handling is a little bit erratic at times. And I'd like to see him make more big shots. But him with a Zach LaVine, I don't mind that. I'm going to be interested in seeing what happens. And I tell you this much, I want to see whether or not the Chicago Bulls are going to get relevant. You're in the third largest market in the United States of America. Michael Jordan blessed that house. You had 6 championships. You got arguably the greatest fan base in sports. They show up at the United Center to support this team. Why can't you put forth a better product than you have? I don't understand it. I think they should do a better job. The hiring of the Tim Floyds of the world and, all of this other stuff. I mean, it's like, come on, man. Come on. Got this coach out of Iowa. He was your coach for Fred Hoiberg. And I mean, come on, man. This is Chicago Bulls. You went from Phil Jackson to Tim Floyd. Okay, you went from Tom Thibodeau to Fred Hoiberg. What the hell is wrong with you? Sun's up. At some point in time, we got to get back to reminding folks that Chicago should be a very relevant town and a major player with marquee free agents. And the only thing that should be out of your control if you're the Bulls is those winters in Chicago, because you ain't a weather machine. So the only thing that should be out of your control that you shouldn't be able to help, if somebody says to you, I don't feel like playing in that cold weather. I don't feel like living there all through the season. All right, you can't control that. But barring that, there's no excuse why the Chicago Bulls shouldn't be a major player. It really, really isn't, Kyle.
I know. I hear you. They're just too cheap.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, we're going to see what they do. They better get relevant again, I'll tell you that much. Appreciate the call, man. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with your calls in more than a minute. It's Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way,